Hermes plays a requiem for Hades, and we learn that he's made music for all the warriors who have died in Ragnarok, but he wonders what Beelzebub is doing in his room. So he notes that he wants to ask for a favor, and tells Hermes to pass a message to Zeus, saying he wants to fight in the next round. Hilda and Gaul visit the room of their next fighter, and Gaul thinks that it looks strange, so Hilda tells her she's about to meet humanity's only true mage. They meet a famous scientist named Nikola Tesla, whose inventions are still being used today, and Hilda notes that the humans thought his works were like magic. But he becomes upset hearing this, and reveals that he hates hearing the word magic, since his inventions were made using science. He reveals that he has already completed his research, and notes that he just needs the necessary materials to bring his theory to life, so Hilda calls a Valkyrie named Gondel. She holds Tesla's hands, and tells him she's ready to offer her body for his research, and she uses the Volunteer technique. She releases a shockwave as she transforms into his suit of armor, and he notes that humans have worshipped divine beings for centuries, but he'll prove that the power of science can defeat the gods. In a flashback, we learn that Beelzebub was the loneliest god in the heavens, since they think he was cursed by Satan, so he'll kill anyone who forms a connection with him. But 3 angels approach him, and their leader Lucifer invites him to join them in the Garden of Eden. Beelzebub tells them to stay away from him, since he's cursed by Satan, but Lucifer doesn't believe the rumors, because he thinks Satan isn't real. His friends agree with him, and they start cracking jokes, but one of them suddenly farts, which makes Beelzebub laugh. He decides to join them, and they enter a restricted area in the Garden of Eden, where they start taking apples. But the guards see them, so they run away, and they eat the apples together. Beelzebub continues to spend time with Lucifer and the others, and he starts enjoying their company, as they sing around a campfire. But the next day, Beelzebub wakes up covered in blood, and he realizes that his friends are dead. He wonders what happened, and he recalls how the people were afraid of him, since they thought Satan would rip their hearts out if they formed a connection with him. He realizes that Satan murdered his friends, and he wants to avenge them, so he promises to find Satan and get rid of him. He starts looking into Satan, but the goddess Lilith approaches him and offers to help him with his investigation. He tells her to stay away from him, but she reveals that Lucifer was also her friend, so she wants to help Beelzebub avenge him. He decides to work with her, and they look everywhere, but they still can't find clues about Satan. But one evening, Beelzebub has a dream about Satan, who forces him to watch as he murders his friends, and he tells Beelzebub that he'll kill everyone he loves. He wakes up from his nightmare, and Lilith hugs him, as he wonders why Lucifer wanted to be his friend, thinking he would still be alive if he just stayed away from him. So she explains that it's because he didn't like to see people alone, and notes that he secretly suffered from loneliness. Beelzebub promises to avenge his friends, and he tells her he won't let anything happen to her, but he suddenly blacks out. He wakes up as he hears Lilith calling his name, but he realizes that he just stabbed her, since Satan possessed his body after he fell in love with her. So he realizes that the rumors were true, and that he was the one who killed his friends after he formed a connection with them. He apologizes for hurting Lilith, and notes that he should have stayed away from her, but she tells him she has already forgiven him since she loves him. She uses her power as she orders him to keep on living, and she passes away, so he cries and starts to lose it. We return to the present, as Beelzebub wishes that someone would kill him, and he hopes that he suffers a gruesome death. Heimdall announces that it's time for the next round, and Beelzebub enters the arena, as Heimdall introduces him as the representative of the gods. But everyone's afraid of him, since the humans recognize him as the Lord of Flies, and the gods know that he was cursed by Satan. Heimdall opens the door for humanity's representative, but lightning suddenly comes out of it, and it lights up the entire arena. Tesla launches himself into the air, and he lands on the arena, as Heimdall notes that he's humanity's only true magician. Heimdall begins the fight, but Tesla approaches Beelzebub, and tells him their battle will be legendary. But he thinks their fight will be boring, and notes that things won't end well for Tesla, who explains that he won't let the gods win Ragnarok, since he wants humanity to keep inventing. Beelzebub suddenly shatters the ground, destroying the pillar in front of him, and Heimdall thinks he used magic. But Tesla notes that it was science, and the humans don't understand what he means, so the inventor Galileo explains that Beelzebub used vibration to split the ground. Hermes shows Ares how vibrating sound waves can destroy glass, and he explains that it can even make a sharp blade, which Beelzebub uses to cut Tesla's armor. Hermes knows that super vibration is Beelzebub's secret, and he notes that it's impossible to counter, telling Ares his muscles would shatter if it touches him. Tesla is impressed by Beelzebub's ability, and notes that it would have split him in half if he didn't jump away, so Gaul is worried that he might lose. But Hilda is confident that he'll win the match, since his armor was created by the greatest minds in history, and it's powered by Gondel's life force. Tesla charges in, and Beelzebub jumps away to avoid his attacks, as he shatters the ground with his strength. The scientist Thomas Edison reveals that he helped Tesla create the suit, and he boasts about its power, but the other inventors know that he always takes credit for Tesla's work. The humans are impressed by his strength, but he knows that his power is useless if he can't hit Beelzebub, so he charges up his suit, and rushes forward with incredible speed. He hits Beelzebub with a burst of energy, which causes a massive explosion, but Beelzebub blocks it with his barrier. He tells Tesla he's getting bored, so he wants to end the fight quickly, and Tesla uses his electric fists to attack Beelzebub's barrier. But he realizes that its vibration is increasing as it suddenly transforms and smashes him to the ground. He manages to survive the attack, but Beelzebub tells him he's weak, and Gaul wonders why his staff is OP, so Hilda reveals that it's a divine treasure, which amplifies his powers. She notes that it creates a barrier when held with his left hand, but when he uses his right hand to wield it, it becomes a sword sharp enough to cut anything. Beelzebub tells Tesla he'll never defeat him, but he uses his suit to create a giant cage of light, and he suddenly starts floating, as he notes that he's the god while they're inside it. The humans think he's using magic, but Edison explains that it isn't the case, and notes that it's still science. We learn that Tesla worked on an anti-gravity system before his death, but he couldn't create it, since Earth didn't have the materials he needed. But since Gondel volunteered to become his suit, he finally has everything he needs to make it work. He rushes in with a lightning-fast attack, so Beelzebub tries to block it, but he gets caught in an explosion, and ends up being injured. Hermes realizes that Tesla can reach his top speed in an instant, so it's difficult to predict his movements, and he charges at Beelzebub again. So he prepares to defend himself, but Tesla instantly changes his direction, and Beelzebub struggles to keep up with him. He tries to block with his barrier, but Tesla still manages to hit him, since his defense vibrations weren't fully deployed. Tesla rushes in again, but Beelzebub almost hits him, and prepares to stab him with his staff, but Tesla dashes away. He moves around Beelzebub and counters with a spinning attack, which shatters his barrier, and Tesla hovers around the arena. Heimdall thinks he's doing it to taunt Beelzebub, who manages to dodge his attack, and he prepares to counter, but Tesla suddenly hits him with his electric fist. Gaul starts to celebrate, but she realizes that Beelzebub was able to block it, and he tells Tesla he already knows his tricks, so his attacks won't work on him. But Tesla charges up his suit, as he notes that the gods are about to witness the true power of science, and he suddenly disappears. We learn that after Tesla's death, the US government conducted an experiment based on his research, and it involved a destroyer equipped with Tesla coils. The crew was informed that the goal was to make the ship invisible, but as they activated the switch, they were suddenly surrounded by electricity, and vanished without a trace. It reappeared near the coast of Virginia, which was 363 kilometers away, and the members of the US Navy realized that the real experiment was teleportation. But the experiment wasn't a total success, since many of the crew members died, and the survivors suffered emotional damage, so the US Navy decided to bury the research. Back in the present, Tesla appears behind Beelzebub and sends him flying, and everyone realizes that he used teleportation. But Beelzebub knows that he needs to charge up to use it, since if he immediately followed up with his teleportation, he could have already ended the fight. Beelzebub can also tell that he can only teleport to certain spots, since Tesla used his fancy movements to lure him to the place where he can teleport, and he knows that there's a limit to the number of times he can use it. Tesla admits that he's right, revealing that he can only use it inside the cage, and he notes that he needs to charge up the air to create spots where he can use it. He adds that it destroys a Tesla coil whenever he uses it, so he can only teleport 2 more times, but Hilda thinks Gondel will break if that happens, and he'll die since his soul is bound to his suit. Beelzebub wonders why he's telling him his weakness, so he explains that it's because scientists shouldn't withhold knowledge, and Beelzebub finds him amusing. He gets back on his feet, but he suddenly coughs up blood, so Hermes realizes that he's severely injured. He recalls the moment when he went to Hades' castle, and he challenged Hades to fight him, but he knew that Beelzebub was in no condition to fight, since he had been injured fighting the monsters in his castle. Beelzebub admits that he wants Hades to kill him, so he agrees to take him on, but Beelzebub is no match for him, and he gets blown away. He tells Hades to finish him off, and shows him the mark Lilith gave him, explaining that he can't take his own life because of it. He thinks Lilith cursed him since she wanted him to suffer, but Hades believes that it's not the case, and notes that she gave Beelzebub a prayer, because she wanted him to continue living. Hades tells him to reconsider his actions, and notes that he'll grant Beelzebub's wish if he returns in prime condition, but he wonders why Lilith doesn't want him to die. After that, Beelzebub returns to Hades, and notes that he still thinks he deserves to die, but he has decided to continue living, so that he can suffer and meet the worst end imaginable. He thinks it's the only way to atone for killing the people he loves, and Hades gives him his staff, explaining that he always wanted to give it to him, since he thinks it's perfect for him. He notes that he'll watch Beelzebub suffer and meet his end, but he wonders why Hades is so concerned about him, so he explains that it's because Beelzebub reminds him of his brothers. We return to the present, as Beelzebub notes that he has changed thanks to Hades, and he wants to slaughter all humans to avenge him. A dark energy surrounds his staff, as he holds it with both hands, and Zeus realizes that he's about to use his chaos technique, which is so powerful that it was banned in the underworld. Tesla tries to attack him first, but he endures it, and covers the arena with a giant ball of darkness, which destroys everything in the area. Everyone's amazed by its power, and they realize that Tesla survived the attack, but Gaul becomes worried seeing his condition. Adamas notices that Beelzebub is also in terrible shape, since his technique tore his own body to shreds, and Zeus thinks he made a mistake by using it without finishing Tesla. The scientists realize that Tesla sacrificed one of his coils to survive, and we learn that he used it to punch the dark ball with his full power, but it still couldn't save him from the chaos technique. Beelzebub tells Tesla he's about to meet his end, but he's determined to continue fighting, and he notes that humanity will go on forever. In a flashback, we see Tesla talking to his brother Dane, who is known in their village as a genius inventor, and he reveals that he's working on a windmill. He explains that he accepted the job since he wants to make people happy, but he's worried that his design won't work, and he notes that he doesn't want to disappoint everyone. But Tesla tells him there's no shame in failing, since it leads to discoveries, and he notes that it's what drives humanity's progress. We learn that he always looked up to Dane, since he built his inventions with all his heart, but one stormy evening, Dane leaves their house to check on the windmill. But he doesn't return, so Tesla rushes to look for Dane, and realizes that he was struck by lightning. The entire village mourns Dane's death, and the village chief blames himself for what happened, since Dane wouldn't have died if he hadn't told him to build the windmill. But Tesla tells the chief not to cry, and notes that Dane isn't dead, since he still lives in him. Tesla finishes the windmill using Dane's blueprint, but the villagers realize it isn't working, so they think the design was flawed. The villagers forget about Dane, and Tesla shuts himself away, but after 6 years, he finally manages to fix the windmill. So the villagers remember Dane, and Tesla notes that he didn't change the design, but it took him 6 years to figure it out. He realizes that the memory of Dane will live on as long as he continues inventing, so he dedicates his life to science, and continues his research even after his death. Back in the present, Tesla gets back up, and everyone cheers for him, as he notes that humanity will never die. He charges up his suit to create the cage again, and starts moving with ridiculous speed, but Beelzebub still manages to keep up with him and pushes him back. He realizes that he can't move freely, since the arena is full of debris, but he knows that Beelzebub's vibration attacks are starting to take a toll on his body. So he thinks the fight is almost over, but Beelzebub charges in and unleashes a barrage of attacks. Lilith's mark activates, since he seems to be throwing his life away, but he manages to control it with his willpower, and Tesla realizes that he can't dodge the attacks. His cage shatters as he gets hit, and his suit starts to fall apart, so the humans realize he's losing the fight. But he suddenly screams that the technique was incredible, and notes that he was impressed by the way Beelzebub used his ability. He notes that he has finally come up with a solution, so the humans realize that he hasn't given up yet, and they start cheering for him as he charges up his suit again. He charges at Beelzebub, who uses his barrier to defend himself, but Tesla starts pummeling it with a barrage of punches. Beelzebub struggles to defend himself, and Adamas knows that Tesla can't keep it up forever, but Zeus notes that Beelzebub's body is also about to give out. The humans cheer as Tesla continues his relentless assault, and Edison wants him to prove that their science can reach the gods, but he suddenly reaches his limit. He realizes that Beelzebub's chaos technique ruptured his internal organs, and he still refuses to let up, but Beelzebub parries his attack. The humans panic as Beelzebub prepares to finish him off, but Tesla reveals that it's the moment he was waiting for, and he suddenly goes on the attack, so Beelzebub puts up his barrier. But Tesla suddenly teleports his fist, and it appears behind Beelzebub, who realizes that he's about to be hit from both sides. But Beelzebub sacrifices his hand to block the right fist, and he barely manages to avoid Tesla's attack. His staff falls to the ground, but everyone realizes that he was able to stab Tesla, causing his suit to fall apart. He thinks he lost because Beelzebub outsmarted him, but he explains that he simply relied on his convictions, and admits that he could never outthink Tesla since he's smarter than him. Tesla coughs up blood, and as Beelzebub walks away, Tesla tells everyone to hold their heads high, because they will continue to evolve after the battle. His soul starts to crumble, but Gondel smiles as she joins him, and he tells the humans to keep growing and never give up. Heimdall announces that Beelzebub won the fight, but he thinks he would have lost if it weren't for Hades, since he was the one who convinced him to keep on living.